Audie Murphy, a name that entered history, not only because of his brilliant exploits, but also because of his brutally straightforward nature in the glamorous world of Hollywood. Throughout his life, Murphy was admired by many and envied by not a few, but there was one figure, a famous movie star, whom he once declared, "I hate him more than anyone else." Audie Murphy was born on June 20th, 1925, in a poor rural area in Kingston, Hunt County, Texas. He was the seventh child in a family of 12 children. His father, Emmett Barry Murphy, was an unstable man, often leaving home for months at a time. In the end, he abandoned the family completely, leaving the burden of raising the children entirely on the shoulders of his mother, Mrs. Josie Bell Killian. In the miserable years during the Great Depression, young Audie and his siblings grew up in poverty, lacking food, clothing, and even the protection of a father. By the 5th grade, he was forced to drop out of school, setting aside his dream of carrying books to class, to work as a hired hand to support the family. Audie was still very young, but he had to labor like a grown man. He picked cotton under the scorching Texas sun, trading sweat and strength for a few meager coins. Each day that passed, Audie learned to live toughly, learned to endure, and learned to mature faster than his age. But behind those cold eyes, there was still the heart of a child yearning for love, yearning for a complete home. The most painful blow struck Audie's life in 1941, when his beloved mother passed away. Mrs. Josie, the only pillar, the one who had sacrificed everything to protect her children, left him when Audie was just 16 years old. That death caused the already fractured family to completely shatter. Audie's younger siblings were sent to orphanages, scattered everywhere. As for him, alone and adrift, he had to cling to odd jobs in the town of Greenville to get by. In 1942, when he turned 17, Audie Murphy harbored a fierce determination. He wanted to enlist in the military, not just to escape poverty, but also to serve his country and find a way to protect his orphaned siblings. But that aspiration was initially rejected. A skinny young man, not even 5 feet 7 inches tall, weighing a mere 119 pounds, with a youthful face like a boy. The army looked at him and just shook their heads. Too small, too weak. Yet Audie Murphy did not give up. He persistently knocked on doors time and again, and then on June 30th, 1942, the door of destiny opened. Audie was officially accepted into the United States Army. On that day, no one could have imagined that this slender young man would become one of the greatest soldiers in history. After rigorous basic training, Audie was assigned to Company B, 1st Battalion, 15th Infantry Regiment, 3rd Infantry Division. His first destination was North Africa, then the Sicily Campaign in 1943. There, he quickly proved his extraordinary mettle. While many seasoned soldiers still trembled before bombs and bullets, Audie, with his cold eyes, was always ready to charge into the fire to protect his comrades. In just a few months, he was promoted to corporal, by the end of the year, to sergeant, and then, in 1944, during Operation Dragoon in southern France, Audie Murphy made history. He single-handedly directed firepower, leading his unit to repel the Germans, despite the enemy forces being vastly superior in number. That courage earned him a promotion to 2nd lieutenant, and his unit was awarded the Presidential Unit Citation, one of the highest honors. Exploit followed exploit. Audie Murphy's name began to echo across the European front. The small soldier from Texas had now become a terror to the Nazis, and a pride of America. But all of that was just the beginning for the fiercest battles waiting ahead. In 1944, the war entered its most brutal phase. The Allies expanded their campaign, pushing deep into French territory, and it was here that the name Audie Murphy stepped into legend. Throughout the battles in northeastern France, Murphy repeatedly displayed extraordinary courage. He was not just a soldier, but also an exemplary commander. Time and again, Murphy charged forward, leading his troops through dense firepower, even turning back to rescue wounded soldiers right under the Germans' hail of bullets. The pinnacle of his military career came in January 1945 at the battle in the Colmar Pocket, eastern France. It was one of the most ferocious battles of World War II. The German forces threw everything they had to halt the Allies. In the critical moment, Murphy made a mad decision that only a man with a heart of steel would dare to carry out. He climbed onto a burning tank, operating the heavy machine gun mounted on it, single-handedly firing back at an entire German company. For over an hour, he steadfastly resisted, eliminating dozens of enemies, causing their formation to disintegrate. Only when he ran out of ammunition did he jump down. Though wounded, he continued to lead his soldiers in a counterattack, securing victory. That heroic action propelled Murphy to the height of glory. He was awarded the Medal of Honor, the highest military decoration of the United States. Along with that came a host of other medals: the Distinguished Service Cross, 2 Silver Stars, the Bronze Star, and multiple Purple Hearts. At that time, Audie Murphy was only 20 years old. A poor young man from Texas, once looked down upon for his small stature, had now become the most decorated soldier of World War II. He had become a living symbol of America, proving that true strength lies not in physique, but in spirit, in a heart ready to sacrifice for comrades and country. The war ended, and Audie Murphy returned home as a hero. But along with the glory came shadows that no one but him could understand. After years on the battlefield, carrying physical wounds and spiritual scars, Murphy had to face a new life, a life in peacetime, but fate opened an unusual path for him. In 1950, Hollywood sought out this young soldier. The film industry wanted to bring his image to the silver screen, turning his real-life exploits into works of art. Initially, Audie Murphy participated only as a fresh face, but he quickly became a phenomenon. In 1955, the film To Hell and Back was released. This was not a fictional role. Murphy played himself. The film was based on his memoir of the same name, recreating the brutal days on the European battlefield. Audiences across America were stunned by the truth unfolding on screen, because no one could portray the horror of war more authentically than someone who had survived it. The film became one of the most successful productions of Universal Pictures in the 1950s. Alongside his film career, Murphy continued to stay connected to the military. He served in the Texas National Guard and later the U.S. Army Reserve, holding the rank of major before retiring. This showed that, even though he had stepped into the glamorous world of Hollywood, his heart still belonged to the soldier's uniform. However, behind the stage lights, Murphy still had to battle an invisible enemy, post-traumatic stress disorder, known today as PTSD. Nightmares, horrifying memories from the battlefield, always haunted him. Peacetime life was never truly peaceful for this soldier. In the early years of his fame in Hollywood, Audie Murphy entered his first marriage with the young actress Wanda Hendricks in 1949. At that time, all of America saw them as a perfect couple, a war hero and a screen star. But the external glamour could not hide the internal storms. Murphy, after the war, carried invisible wounds. He often suffered from insomnia, irritability, panic at loud noises. These were clear signs of psychological trauma. Wanda, despite her efforts, could not endure the ghost of the past that always haunted her husband. The marriage lasted only 2 years, then ended in pain. That failure made Audie Murphy even more withdrawn, even less sharing with others. But fate gave him another chance. At the end of 1951, Murphy met Pamela Archer, an airline stewardess, not part of Hollywood's dazzling lights. It was Pamela's simplicity, sincerity, and warmth that touched the heart of the lonely soldier. They married, and this was the true home for Audie Murphy. With Pamela, he found the peace that neither the battlefield nor the film set could provide. She became a solid support, patiently standing by her husband during his inexplicable outbursts of anger, during the nights he broke out in sweat from war nightmares. They had 2 sons together, Terrence Michael, often called Terry, and James Shannon, nicknamed Skipper. Despite being busy with films and military duties, Murphy always tried to fulfill his role as a father. He taught his children to value honesty, courage, and love for family, lessons distilled from his own bitter childhood and his years in combat. In that small family, Audie Murphy finally found what he had yearned for all his life, a place to return to, a place where his wounded heart could heal somewhat. When speaking of Audie Murphy, people often mention his courage, integrity, and loyalty. He rarely got involved in Hollywood scandals. But there was one exception, one name that made Audie Murphy unable to hide his true feelings. That was James Cagney, a major star of American cinema at the time. In the public's eyes, James Cagney was a talented actor with a strong, fierce style on screen. But to Audie Murphy, Cagney was the embodiment of falseness and arrogance. He once candidly admitted, "I hate him more than anyone else." The cause began from a fundamental difference. Cagney grew up in New York, trained in an artistic environment, succeeding through stage and film. Meanwhile, Murphy, a poor boy from Texas, entered Hollywood not because of a passion for art, but thanks to his battlefield exploits. In Cagney's eyes, people like Murphy were just soldiers trying to act, not worthy to stand in the same ranks as real stars. Cagney even mocked him multiple times, calling Audie "soldier boy," the little soldier kid. To Murphy, that was an insult. He had never been ashamed of his combat past, but the way Cagney said it, full of contempt, deepened the wound in his heart. That hatred also stemmed from another reason, World War II. While millions of American youths plunged into the fire, Cagney did not enlist. For someone who had buried too many comrades like Murphy, that was hard to accept. He did not publicly criticize, but deep down, he always saw it as a stain. The opposition between Audie Murphy and James Cagney did not stop at professional matters. It was also a clash between two worlds, two different value systems. James Cagney was a big star, famous for his tough guy acting style, quick-witted, insolent, and full of confidence. He conquered audiences with his explosive on-screen presence. But to Murphy, it was all just an act. He once bluntly said, "Cagney always plays the same role, a tough guy, and that's just phony. The public might like it, but I don't." Murphy was a man of few words, even somewhat reserved. He valued sincerity and humility. That was why he admired actors like James Stewart, a pilot who had served in combat, always treating people with respect. In Murphy's eyes, Stewart was a true artist, while Cagney was just a braggart in life and on screen. What made the hatred even more intense was Cagney's attitude toward veterans. In meetings, Cagney often looked at Murphy like an outsider. He saw a soldier entering acting as ridiculous. Those sarcastic words, those disdainful looks, cut deep into Murphy's self-respect. A man who had dared to die on the battlefield, now being looked down upon in his own homeland. Murphy did not need Hollywood's adulation. He only wanted fairness, recognition that soldiers, even without artistic training, had the right to tell their stories. And when Cagney denied that, Murphy saw him as an irreconcilable enemy. To Audie Murphy, James Cagney was not just an actor he disliked. He was a symbol of all the falseness, vanity, and indifference that Hollywood represented. Audie Murphy's life, though brilliant in exploits and film career, ultimately closed with a tragedy. On May 28, 1971, Audie Murphy boarded a private plane for a business trip. The sky that day was overcast, with heavy rain and thick fog. When flying to the mountains about 14 nautical miles from Roanoke, Virginia, the plane lost its bearings in the terrible weather conditions. It crashed into the mountainside. The violent impact claimed the lives of everyone on board, including Audie Murphy. He departed at the age of 45, a man who had survived hundreds of battles, facing bombs, bullets, and death, ultimately fell in a peacetime accident. His passing shocked the entire nation. The press called it the death of an American hero. Audie Murphy's funeral was held with great solemnity. He was buried at Arlington National Cemetery, the resting place of America's greatest soldiers. His grave became one of the most visited sites in that cemetery, because to the American people, Audie Murphy was not just a soldier, but a symbol of courage, resilience, and the pain that war leaves behind. His legacy lives on not only through the medals of honor, not only through Hollywood films, but also through the image of a real man, a poor boy from Texas, who dared to rise from the shadows, becoming a hero amid the storm of fire. And above all, Audie Murphy left the world a reminder. True strength does not lie in glamour, but in a heart that knows sacrifice, knows loyalty, and dares to live true to itself. Dear viewers, the story of Audie Murphy has shown us an extraordinary journey. From a poor boy in rural Texas, becoming the most honored soldier in World War II, then stepping into Hollywood with its ups and downs, and finally departing in tragedy. But above all, he left an eternal legacy: courage, honesty, and love for family and country. If you feel moved by this story, please take a moment to hit the subscribe button on the channel so we can continue exploring together the untold stories of Hollywood legends and heroes who have entered history. Please leave a comment below, sharing your thoughts about Audie Murphy. Have you heard of him before, or what impresses you most about his life? We look forward to hearing your thoughts. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next videos. Each story, each memory, is how we together preserve a part of history. Thank you for joining us, and see you in the next journeys.